4 o'clock, wallow in self-pity. 4:30, stare into the abyss. 5 o'clock, solve world hunger. Tell no one. 5:30, jazzercise. 6:30, dinner with me. I can't cancel that again. 7 o'clock, wrestle with my self-loathing. I'm booked. Of course, if I bumped the loathing to 9, I could still be done in time to lay in bed, stare at the ceiling, and slip slowly into madness.
We enjoy wrestling.
Hey everyone, it's We Enjoy Wrestling. We are the Mattitude Eric. I am Matt Fowler. Say hello, Eric Goldman.
Hi everybody, how you doing?
Hopefully my voice sounds a little better this week. I don't know, it's still a little strained. I went to a concert last night, so it's still not back to 100%. I'm also going to be coughing a little bit. I assume you will as well, Eric?
Yes, I went to my allergist, and he gave me both a inhaler and a steroid to take, and it's helping a bit, but I am still coughing. And last night I had to get through moderating a panel, and I was really nervous about that. Like, I thought I'd just be coughing through the whole thing, but I managed to suppress and only cough here and there, so I didn't feel like, it didn't seem like I had consumption.
Yeah.
While
you weren't like Doc Holliday, peak tuberculosis?
I wasn't Nicole Kidman in Moulin Rouge ruining what could have been a happy ending with the old blood in the napkin, the blood in the handkerchief.
Damn, some Rouge spoilers here for...
Hey, if Buffy can do it 2001, I can do it now.
Hey, tell everyone what the panel was last night, and I'm glad that you got a bit of stage health. You know, you get up on there, you know, you're feeling like crap, you think everything's going to go...
Yeah,
got a cough, and then suddenly your insides, your inner will takes over, and you get through it.
Thank you. Yes, it's a documentary called United We Fan, and it's funny. It's one of those things where I was interviewed for it like 2 years. So I'm in it, but I was interviewed for it like 2 years ago. So it's one of those things. I did the interview, and then I get a message about it from the director, and I'm like, oh yeah, I was interviewed for that thing, and now it's coming out. Now it's completed, and. No disrespect to the director who did a great when he interviewed me, I thought did a great job, but you just have no idea what the scale of these things are. So when I saw the movie, I was like, oh, like he got like a lot. I mean, I don't think getting me was a big coup, but it's like Amy Acker, Zachary Levi, Jonah Nolan and Greg Plagueman, Scott Bakula, Nichelle Nichols, all these people it's about campaigns to save TV shows. It's about
Oh, okay, yeah.
fan
Amy Acker.
campaigns.
I love Amy Acker.
She's great, and I don't think it's wrong to say this. A thing that didn't happen. They never teased it because they didn't want to. They were trying to get her there last night. She wanted to be there, but it was difficult timing for her to be out in LA, so it didn't happen. There were a couple people they were hoping might make it who couldn't. But we had a lot of great guests, including Greg, Person of Interest, EP and showrunner that you and I.
So did they talk to? Because you mentioned Plagueman, and so was it about Person of Interest? Because obviously she was also on Angel, and a huge cult following from that.
Funny you should ask that, Matt, because Person of Interest was one, like they follow kind of a few sort of prime fan campaigns in the movie. So they go back to Star Trek. They talk to the couple who in the 60s spurred the letter writing campaign that saved Star Trek for a third season. But then they talk about Cagney and Lacey, which was a huge one. And I really like that. Like you kind of see this generational thing and people who were part of all these generational things. And then they talk about Chuck, Person of Interest, Veronica Mars, and Jericho are like kind of the big ones of the past decade plus.
I would say this though, would you consider Ground Zero perhaps being Firefly, which didn't come back as a TV show, but those brown coats, that fan swell, that groundswell, that fan support, like actually got a feature film out of it. Which
it's certain, I think there is an argument to be made there. And it's funny, the woman Bijou Tremblay, who was part of the female half of the couple from the Star Trek campaign, I guess she talked about talking to some of the brown coats, because they are like the patron saints of fan campaigns, and
that's what I mean. Yeah.
People in the movie who've never met them or maybe met them last night for the first time mention like they saved Star Trek with a bunch of letters. So probably, but it's funny. You mentioned Angel only because the closing credits I noticed had special thanks that included a couple people that weren't in the movie, including they also talk about Roswell a little bit, but it's funny because and Jason Katims is in it. But I noticed in the closing credits they thanked James Marsters and Shuri Appleby, who are not in the movie. Well, it turns out that there's 50 minutes of deleted scenes that are going to be on the DVD, which is available December 4th, including entire things for campaigns. He just had to cut the movie to keep it shorter and more concise. And so Roswell originally had more, and I'm guessing that's where Shuri Appleby is. But then he did interview James Marsters and talk to him, and Amy Acker about Angel as well, as talking to her about Person of Interest.
So that would be probably on the DVD.
Yes.
And
yes.
tell everyone the name of it again. It's Roswell and Lacey. What's the name of the DVD? The doc?
It's called Roswell and Lacey. No, it's called United We Fan, actually. But if you look at the logo, United We and Fan are all representing popular TV show logos.
Little Easter eggs.
Star Trek Person of Interest and Chuck. But yeah. So it's a really great movie. I think it really turned out really well, not just because I'm in it. I think it's just, it's an interesting thing about this day and age in campaigns. I mean, it's funny because since they made this movie 2 years ago, so many other shows have had fan campaigns or been saved. And we talked a lot last night about, all the different outlets there are for shows now and how last summer so many shows got a second life. And also, I just mentioned, you might see me repeat this as a tweet just because it is a fun fact when you think about it. I was like, Veronica Mars at this point has to be the show with the most things attached, in that Veronica Mars has now been a UPN show, a CW show, a movie, and now a Hulu series. So different
incarnations, formats, sites,
different places. Not counting SmackDown, which never ended. It just would make new contracts and move on.
Well, I heard SmackDown's going to be a Showtime limited event.
Oh wow!
Directed by Ben Stiller, and it's going to be a movie on HBO for some reason. Yeah,
oh my god! Wow! So, and then it's going to be on part of the new Apple streaming series. So yeah,
it actually is just Big Little Lies season 2.
Ooh.
Let's see. This is a slower week for wrestling, so
my last United We fan. So December 4th on DVD, and I think streaming, but definitely, look for it December 4th. Anyway,
well, my point was what we started off. We didn't really kick off with wrestling chat here because I feel like things have calmed down a little bit in wrestling. Not that there weren't some insane things that happened this week on a fairly putrid Raw, but I feel like we'll talk about Person of Interest at another point. Just a little longer because it's a show we both love and sort of we're big advocates for and tried to support as much as we could. And I also feel like when you say the names of those other shows like Chuck and all the ones you were listing, I feel like Person of Interest still stands out as sort of an outlier of that show for a lot of people because of the network it was on and because
the show is perceived to be
and how it started off basically as a very procedural style show, regardless, despite the fact that it had sort of a very 5 minutes from now surveillance sci-fi twist going on with it, it was still a case of the week show that became by season 3 fully serialized for the most part. Mm-hmm. We should talk about that at a different time. But you mentioned Allergist also at the top, and I was like Dean Ambrose's Allergist, that he went to, which we'll definitely get into. I do want to read this first. We don't have any mail this week, but we did get a very nice review on iTunes. I don't know the person's name because their iTunes login is only R Fitz. But thank you, R Fitz, who wrote, and way back at the first episode when I mentioned that doing this podcast was a terrible idea because not only are there actual people from the wrestling industry who do wrestling podcasts, but there are also people, people not in the industry like we aren't. Just two guys talking over Skype about wrestling. Those podcasts are also a dime a dozen. So again, thank you to all our listeners who have chosen this two guys talking about wrestling over Skype podcast over the others, or as well as the others. Yeah. There's just no shortage of wrestling podcasts. And I mentioned that our target audience were, of course, people who loved us and loved wrestling and wanted to hear us specifically talk about wrestling. Now, then going down there, tier-wise, there were the people who liked wrestling and maybe didn't know us and wanted to just listen to two new people talk about wrestling. And then below that even were people who knew us but didn't watch wrestling and still wanted to hear us talk about something, which I think is not, I do feel is the highest compliment. Like, if you just want to listen to talk about bullshit, like, no matter what, then, man, you are a saint among sinners. Let's see. So R. Fitz writes, came from Matt and Eric's tangents, stayed for the fun wrestling recaps and discussion. I've been a huge fan of Matt and Eric for many years due to their previous podcast, Channel Surfing. When WEW was announced, I was a bit disappointed because I don't watch wrestling. I recently decided to give it a chance and was pleasantly surprised. Even though I only have a basic knowledge of wrestling, the way that the guys talk about the storylines was both funny and engaging. I was happy to hear that their signature tangents about 80s, 90s movies and the world of TV are still here as well. The most recent episode had me so hooked that I've already started binging the podcast from the beginning. That's where I kind of cringe a little bit because we like to feel we get better with each episode, at least monthly, if not episodically. And back at the beginning, we didn't even have a theme or anything. I was like literally playing music from my phone into the microphone. Let's see, where did I leave off? I'm even planning to start watching WWE so I could see some of these fun moments that they're describing. If you're looking for a weekly fix of lighthearted wrestling discussions mixed with some hilarious off-topic banter, We Enjoy Wrestling is the podcast for you. So thank you again for that. And everyone, please subscribe to us on iTunes and all the other places you can listen to us at Spreaker, Spotify, Stitcher. I forget the one on Android. I know Google Play was letting everyone down, so Pocket Cast, I think, was the one that was recommended. Rate us, please, and thank you again for all your support. And, no mail, so we could dive right into this. My voice, it wasn't like I was wooing the whole time, but last night I went to April and I went and saw Nine Inch Nails.
Yeah, I saw. That's awesome.
And great show. I won't go into it too much because I don't think you're a huge Nine Inch Nails fan, but they played a lot off The Fragile, which is one of, I think, the best albums ever recorded to things you can record albums on. I think it's just one of the greatest. It's a 2 CD or a double album, I guess you'd call it. That's just a masterwork that I don't think gets a lot of attention. I think amongst Nine Inch Nails fans, I think it's many fans' favorite. But they played a lot of songs off that. I do like the fact that they are playing different sets every night. So I think that's really cool. Not just like the same songs in a different order, like different songs.
Like Weird Al on his tour I went to this year.
Are you going to go to the Strings Attached?
I am. I have tickets for the Greek already.
All right, I have to get one from. It's the same venue actually where I saw Nine Inch Nails. I think he's. Nice. There. So, so there were 2 Dallas shows. I only went to one, but those who went to both saw 2 different shows. Aside from like the encore's closing song, like the closing songs for the first set and then the encore, which obviously had like a hole in heart. They heard different songs. So anyway, props to Trent Reznor for that and for being in he was. I've seen him perform well and I've seen him perform not well because I've seen Nine Inch Nails many times. Anyway,
you are a bigger and more knowledgeable fan than I am, but I like them and I was like, oh, they're playing the Hollywood Palladium for a few nights. I'd love to go to that. And then I saw, not that it would be easy to get tickets anyway, but then it was like you have to go in person, old school thing, which I actually kind of appreciate, but was not.
I did not appreciate that because I had to stand in line in the summer in Texas.
Gotcha.
And I don't, it was kind of like when I was a kid, we had to walk 5 miles to school in the snow.
Yeah.
And it was that sort of mentality for Trent Reznor. I think he was also sort of saying, like, I want people to talk to each other and get to know each other again. Like, he's not some, like, morose indoor kid like the rest of us.
Right.
Like, somehow Trent Reznor is a social butterfly in his new incarnation and wants everyone to... Everyone just stood there hot on their phones.
Right.
Wearing black in Texas heat.
Wishing they were ordering tickets on their phones.
Yeah.
I drove by the Palladium the other night, though, where they were playing, and I was like, oh, that would have been nice.
I saw them at the Greek with, many times. I saw them at the Greek specifically with Queens of the Stone Age opening. It was probably one of their best shows. I saw a bad Vegas show they did. But, yeah, over the years, he's been in better moods than other times. This was probably the best, I think. I would say.
The Greek, we're really tangenting here, but the Greek, of course, if you are familiar with the movie, Get Him to the Greek, that would be it's in the freaking title as far as like a local venue. But since that movie wasn't a huge hit, I will say now the Greek, if you want to make a pop culture reference, it's very prominent in A Star Is Born. Has the new Star Is Born, that's an international success, has the venue where he first gets her to come on stage and sing "Shallow" and makes her a star. There's like several scenes at the Greek because